Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let's begin by putting ourselves in the presence of the Lord.
Most loving Father, you have brought us to the beginning of a new day.
As our eyes open to the morning light, our mouths praise your beauty and goodness, the splendor and design of your creation.
We accept the renewed gift of life and grace with gratitude.
We offer you our every thought, word, and act today, and pray that it be in accordance with your will and in furtherance of your glory.
Make us instruments of your presence to others.
Use our minds to understand the big picture, our hearts full of passion and purpose, and our hands to build partnerships.
Let us be adequate persons to become architects of change and fulfill our promise of elevating lives of communities and people we serve.
When evening comes, gather us again, safe under the shelter of your wings, to rest confirmed in your love.
And with assurance that with your help, we have taken one more step towards a better world.
Amen.
Maayong buntag kanatong tanan, and we are so happy that you are joining us here this morning for our Gabii sa Kabilin one night only press conference. We are streaming live on the GSK Facebook page from the new building in Rafi, the Kabilin Center. So we're very excited to have you all here this morning. We'd like to start off by acknowledging those of us who have come here for our press conference this morning. Maybe you could just raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you by name. Ms. Morissette Eram from Cebu Daily News. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ramon Taguchi from the Freeman. Ms. Alreen Levy Lumapas. Ms. Bri Caballes. Mr. Publico Briones from The Big Picture. Hello, sir. Ms. Marit Steines Kabugon from Manila Times. And did I miss anybody? No? Okay. So again, thank you for joining. We also have some people who are joining us online virtually. We have Mr. Robbie Alugar from RMA News and Ms. Wenelin Sabalo from Sunstar. So a gentle reminder, to kindly make sure that our phones are on silent or vibrate so that we won't disturb today's session. So again, thank you all of us for joining. We're very excited to have you for this event. So as you know, before the pandemic, Gabii sa Kabilin was an annual tradition here in Cebu, which many Cebuanos looked forward to. It was a night where we could literally explore our rich heritage, with a ticket providing access to several museums and heritage sites all across Metro Cebu. And it was a night to be enjoyed by all, by barkada, by family. However, with the onset of the pandemic last year, we had to cancel the in-person event, and so in lieu of that, we have switched to an online platform on the Facebook page where we had a series of webinars and online activities where we could bring topics about our culture and heritage and make them accessible to everyone through this online platform. So we are very excited that this year in 2021, we have been able to prepare a one-night-only event, to kind of ensure that we are able to continue with our tradition of Gabii sa Kabilin. And this is going to be part of the 500-year anniversary of the arrival of Christianity here in the Philippines. So access to this event is still done through a ticketing system, which is purchased online for 80 pesos. And we will be showcasing cultural presentations from 16 museums and heritage sites. So this year's event will highlight the Cebuano heritage community's commitment to ensure that we can continue to promote and preserve our Cebuano culture. So despite the challenges that the pandemic has brought, we hope that this event will remind Cebuanos of our identity and continue to build a sense of pride among our communities so that we're able to move forward together through these confusing and challenging times. I'm honored to introduce our panel here this morning, who will give a bit of insight to the stories we plan to highlight during the Gabii sa Kabilin event. So with us this morning, we have Ms. Haidee Palapar. She is the event director, the head of content for culture and heritage of the Ramona Boitis Foundation, the Region 7 coordinator for the literary arts for the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, a published poet and creative writer and playwright. So let's give her a round of applause. We also have Mr. Florencio Moreño. He's speaking on the Nao Victoria Tour. He's the curator of the Casa Gorordo Museum and the head of experience for the Culture and Heritage Unit of RAFI. So let's give him a welcome. We also have Dr. Jose Eleazar Jobers Bersales, who will be speaking on the significance of the 500 years of anniversary of Christianity in the Philippines and the victory at Mactan. He is the director of the University of San Carlos Museum, a consultant for Museum and Heritage Affairs of the Cebu Provincial Government, the chair of the National Committee on the Museum National Commission for the Culture and Arts. He is also an archaeologist, historian, and writer. So let's welcome him, please. We also have Reverend Father Ric Anthony Reyes, OSA, to speak on the 500 years of the arrival of Santo Niño in the Philippines. He is the library director, archivist, and museum curator of the Basilica del Santo Niño. He's also the secretariat head and spokesperson for the Fiesta Señor celebrations from 2017 to 2021. So let's also welcome him. Thank you, Father. So after their brief presentations, we'll be able to entertain questions from you all. And for those of us who are watching online through the GSK Facebook page, should you have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in the comment section. We have someone that is reviewing them, and we'll be able to ask the questions later on after their presentation. So again, we want to thank you so much for taking time this morning to join us. And I will be turning over the floor now to Ms. Haidee.
Daghang salamat, Jackie. This sounds like a sort of like a debate or very formal event, no? But I want it to be light because this is what Gabii sa Kabilin is all about, no? We're dealing with history, culture, and heritage, but it has to be fun at the same time, no? So, maayong buntag again sa tanan. Welcome. This is actually the Kabilin Center. It will be the first time, I think, that the Kabilin Center will be joining the Gabii Center, Gabii sa Kabilin. As you all know, this is actually very much related or connected with the Casa Gorordo Museum. And this is owned by RAFI still. And this is eventually, we hopefully will be able to open at some point this year and be able to showcase temporary exhibits, performances, presentations, conferences, and fora. So many things we want to do here. So welcome again to the Rafi, the Kabilin Center. Daghang salamat sa atong mga higala sa media o sa mga bloggers nga ania sa atong press conference karon o sa katong nagsunod sa live streaming nato diha sa Gabii sa Kabilin Facebook page. Thank you for giving us, Rafi, and the partner museums and sites of the Gabii sa Kabilin the chance to invite everyone, Cebuanos, Filipinos, and even international audience to a different kind of Gabii sa Kabilin this year. For those who have been part of the Gabii sa Kabilin in the last 15 years, that's how long it has been, they've always looked forward to the summer heritage event of Cebu. That one night in May, where museums go beyond their regular hours and open their doors from 6 p.m. to 12 midnight to see again the permanent exhibits of the different museums and check out temporary exhibits, presentations, and performances set up for that night only, and to partake of the fun with family and friends. Partake also of the street food, even those from our partner hotels, no? And the Tartanilla rides, which has really been a hit among children and even with among adults. Now, we wanted Cebuanos, Gabii sa Kabilin actually was created because we wanted Cebuanos to visit their museums and look at them in another light. That they are more than repository of dead or old objects, and they are in fact alive with many things, happenings, and most importantly, stories about their culture and heritage that they can be proud of who they are, and be proud also of their place. We were ready to hold the 14th Gabii sa Kabilin face-to-face last year, but the pandemic struck and we had to transition to online activities to continue our engagements to a public who missed the event and were weary and hungry for knowledge, especially in a time when physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually everyone was confined. We prepared ourselves for the eventuality that another Gabii sa Kabilin might be waylaid still because of a pandemic that took time to contain. And we had to organize the Gabii sa Kabilin because we have been preparing for 2021, and I think in the last 4 years. The 500-year anniversary of the arrival of Magellan, introduction of Christianity, and the victory at Mactan. We also felt that the crisis is the best time to remind Cebuanos of who they are, their identity, and what they have, pride of place and heritage, that in this time of confusion, our identity and pride of place is what is consistent and will strengthen us and move us forward beyond. That despite and in spite of the unseen war with an unseen virus, we in the heritage community or museum network continue to work together to ensure the promotion and preservation of Cebuano culture and heritage, which is relevant in this time. And so, the next slide, please. We created the Gabii sa Kabilin One Night Only, an online activity wherein netizens can watch the varied presentations of different museums and heritage sites for one night only, April 16, 2021, from 6 p.m. to 12 midnight. Why April 16? Because instead of May, because we are initially aligned to the celebration of the Archdiocese of Cebu, and we want to be in step, so to speak, with Magellan in his days here in Cebu before his untimely demise in the politically laced and that battle for supremacy in Mactan on April 27. Thus, our theme this year is, next slide please, the arrival. For in the last 3 years, our themes have been Balangay in 2018, Setting Sail in 2019, and The Journey in 2020. Next slide, please. I'd like to show to you the teaser video that we released, I think a month ago, about Gabii sa Kabilin, just to give you a quick idea of what to expect. Napay Kabilin. Thank you. That was our teaser, the teaser that we released a month ago. Okay, the arrival, of course, is historically placed, but in our presentations, we also wanted to highlight how the arrival of Magellan or the Spanish conquest and influences, including the introduction of Christianity, gave precedence to the impact of Spanish ways to Filipino living and producing. For the GSK Ono this year, or GSK One Night Only, and this year's GSK online activities, for some of you have been following our GSK activities online in our FB page, we continued our webinars, our online exhibits. We will have quiz balls this year and videos on local culture and heritage for the entire year. And for these two GSK events, we have partner museums and sites. We have 16 this year. Next slide, please. And these are our partners for this year. Our official partners, actually, for this year. The Archdiocesan Museum of Cebu, the Archdiocesan Shrine of San Nicolas de Tolentino Parish, Basilica Menor del Santo Niño Museum, the Casa Gorordo Museum, Cebu Provincial Government Museo Subo, Fort San Pedro, Mandaue Presidencia, Museo de Talisay, Museo Parian sa Subo 1730 Jesuit House, Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, Rafi, the Kabilin Center, St. Teresa's College Sister Maria Delia Coronel Folklife Museum, Subo Chinese Heritage Museum, University of San Carlos Museum, University of Southern Philippines Foundation Rizaliana Museum, and the University of the Philippines Cebu. These are the 16 museums and sites that are joining us for this year's Gabii sa Kabilin. Next slide, please. We believe that the GSK Ono, or One Night Only, is one of the first cultural activity in Cebu on a big scale that uses online for an extended period of 6 hours and capitalizes online payment means. But this is also testing the waters for Cebuano audiences, and that is why we're offering it at a very affordable price of 80 pesos. In the past, Gabii sa Kabilin, so I think our ticket that one ticket actually reached to about 200 pesos. But this year, because this is a new way of presenting Gabii sa Kabilin, we wanted to test the waters first. And so we have the 80 pesos as an introductory price. I myself believe that the 80 pesos is a small price to pay for these presentations that the museums and sites prepared. And here's a quick look at the program for the evening. Next slide, please. The 80 pesos actually, as we can buy the tickets before I present the program to you. We can buy the tickets actually online still. We want to ensure that there's the safety and the health protocols are in place. And so these are our means of buying the ticket. Next slide, please. We have GCash and Eventbrite. In our GSK page, all of those who want to purchase the tickets will be guided accordingly as to how they can purchase the tickets. This is for the GCash. The code is even given. We can also purchase tickets through Eventbrite. And Eventbrite is also, next slide please, the platform that we are using to also stream the Gabii sa Kabilin One Night Only on April 16. So all of these guide or instructions are there. Of course, we have been receiving inquiries about how to purchase the museums. They're also guided through our chat groups there. Next slide, please. And this is the program. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but just to mention some, and we have also our panel here who can discuss a little bit more about what their museums are presenting. We have from the Archdiocesan Museum of Cebu, the sacred objects will be highlighted, and it's sort of a little bit of catechism or an introduction of Catholicism that they're going to be giving through the sacred objects. From the Archdiocesan Shrine of San Nicolas, the Tolentino Parish, they'll be presenting a video about Old Viejo San Nicolas. I think everyone knows that San Nicolas is a very old parish actually, and has also a bearing or has also a connection to the Santo Niño, and that's what they're going to be highlighting. For the Basilica Menore del Santo Niño, the Santo Niño de Cebu, at the heart of 500 years of Christianity, Father Ric is here to discuss a little bit about what they're going to be presenting. Casa Gorordo Museum, and that I will leave to Florencio Moreño, the curator of the Casa Gorordo, to discuss. This is, I think even just this, looking at this will be worth the 80 pesos. Life in a Caravel. And we will have a video tour of the now Victoria, actually. And from the Museo Cebu, they'll be showcasing the paintings of June Impas, depicting Magellan's stay here in the Philippines. Fort San Pedro will highlight the different Spanish fortifications in the Philippines, of course, including the fort. Mandaue Presidencia will be focusing or highlighting the poblacion of Mandaue. Museo de Talisay will look at the Chon, but the gastronomic history, pre-colonial up to the Spanish period. Jesuit House will showcase Spanish-influenced architecture in Cebu. Palmgrass will look at Magellan in the Philippines, his stay here. And the Kabilin Center will be reenacting a little bit of Pigafetta's Sugbo, what Sugbo was in the eyes of Pigafetta through his chronicles. STC will focus on native trees in pre-colonial but post-Hispanic Philippines. Sugbo Chinese Museum will highlight the Chinese trade routes and around Southeast Asia and trading in the Philippines. USC Museum will look at food at Raha Humabon's feast. And USPF Rizaliana Museum, of course, because it's a Rizaliana Museum, they're going to highlight Rizal's unwavering faith. University of the Philippines Cebu will showcase pre-colonial arts, I believe. And these are just a snippet of what you will be expecting from the 6 hours of Gabii sa Kabilin One Night Only. We have with us here the different curators as well as the heads of the museums. And they will be talking a little bit more about what they're going to be presenting. But we have invited Dr. Jose Eleazar Bersales, who is going to also, well, he's been very supportive of the Gabii sa Kabilin at the start. And he will be talking about the relevance of such an event actually to the celebration of the 500 years. And Father Ric is also here. We really gladly welcomed the participation of the Basilica, the Santo Niño Museum this year, especially because it together with Magellan, the Santo Niño also arrived 500 years ago. And of course, our curator of the Casa Gorordo Museum, Florencio Moreño, will give a little something, a snippet of the life in the Caravel presentation that we have prepared. I will now turn over the microphone first to Flo.
Sige, I'll start na lang. Kay arrival, rabad siya ng ato ang theme. So just a bit of context for our presentation. No? If you're familiar with a little bit of the story of the circumnavigation of the world, Magellan left with 5 ships in 1519, and only 1 ship was able to return, no, to complete the circumnavigation 2 years after. No, that ship was called Nao Victoria. No, if you remember, in 2010 was it? There was a replica of a galleon. No, it was called the Galleon Andalusia that came to Cebu. So that foundation that made that replica or reconstructed a galleon actually created a replica of the Nao Victoria. No, it's called a Nao. The Spanish term before, which is a reference to the big ships, whether it was a caravel, a carack, or a galleon. They call it a Nao. No, so it's called Nao Victoria. They made a replica, and actually, we in our correspondence, their plan originally was to recreate the circumnavigation of the world starting in 1519, the year the pandemic hit us. 2019, sorry. 2019. But they were not able to do it because of this pandemic. No, and they actually intended to stop over Cebu because it was really a recreation of the circumnavigation. Sadly, was it? But they are still planning to do that after the pandemic. But you know, we can't wait. No, we can't wait. We really have to bring something back of that, event, no, that changed our, so to speak, no, history forever. So, Ren, can you show that slide? We corresponded and we created this. We co-created with the Fundación this. It's actually a short documentary. It's about 20 minutes, or it's like a short film. It's divided into 2. No, so first one, a Spanish professor discusses and to us the legacy of that very important trip, no, that changed the world, and we are part of that story. No, Cebu is very much part of that story. The second part is that the crew of the replica of that Nao is going to give us a tour of the replica, which is not docked in Sevilla in Spain because of the pandemic. No, so hopefully they will be able to travel shortly. No, and we will be able to see the actual thing. But for now, this is the best you can do to bring back this. So the return of the Victoria, we try to call it the return of the Victoria, not so much the life of the car, but the return here in the Philippines. No, so this is the actual replica. It was actually finished in 2004, but I think it has already traveled. It hasn't traveled, although it had not stopped over the Philippines. Yeah, but their plan was originally to stop over around last year. No. But they couldn't do it. So this was the boat that actually completed that journey. No, this was the boat also that Magellan really was the captain. No, helmed. It was the second smallest of the 5 ships. And then, if you're familiar with Juan Sebastian del Cano, that Spanish Navy ship that came here, it's named after the person that helmed the ship after Magellan was killed, and he was the one actually who completed the circumnavigation. in 1522, September 1522, if I'm correct. So that's our presentation for Casa Gorordo. We partnered with Fundación Nao Victoria, and we hope that it will help, kanang bring more weight or more onto this event, no? Because especially that the theme is arrival. No? So thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me in this panel of for this press conference. So I am Father Ric, and presently the director of BMSN Museum, the Basilica Museum. So what will be our expectation of the presentation of the Basilica is that, of course, the Santo Niño. The centerpiece will be the Santo Niño de Cebu, and as we are preparing for the materials, I think our 20-minute will not be gone because of the rich materials maybe that we have found so far with the Santo Niño. Because maybe the context behind the presentation of the Basilica for this virtual Gabii sa Kabilin is that we will just go to the basics. No? So from the time that it was brought by Magellan here in Cebu, eventually at present, no. So we will just go back to what so far are the important things that we can associate with the Santo Niño, and most especially at the time that it arrived here, and then what had happened between 1521 and then by the time that it was discovered in 1565. So there is one confusion usually that is being associated in the history of the Santo Niño is that most of the people cannot, in a sense, make this two segment in the history of the Santo Niño, the 1521 and the 1565. Most especially that we, in the Basilica, we are celebrating also the 1565 event, the April 28, 1565, which is the discovery or the pagkakaplag, no? So usually, it's the event of April 14, which is the baptism, but at the same time, the presentation of the image to Reina Juana, no, parang murag di siya ma-accentuate, no? And that is why we are doing our best in the 20-minute preparation or presentation, I mean, to present that segment in the life or in the history of the Santo Niño. And then so far, of course, it's like a tour, no? So it is a virtual tour because we're a museum, and the services we can offer in the physical or in the pre-COVID times is that we have this a kind of a tour of our museum. At this point of time, we also have a kind of a touring of the whole complex of the Basilica by going to the different parts of the area, such as the church, the chapel of the Santo Niño, and of course our museum. And then maybe we can also offer some. I'm looking also into this in the preparation right now. Documents. I want to present some documents that we have in our archives relating to the Santo Niño, the not so known documents that were given, especially these things such as the indulgences, the royal concessions before to the Santo Niño. What is the meaning of that double-headed eagle, for example? No? All these things that we are associating, but they are neglected most of the time because, of course, maybe because it's history, sometimes they are not that very interested. But I hope with all these things, with the presentation that we have in the convenience of our homes, we can entertain these things, and maybe we can deepen on these things, especially in its history. So far, that will be all from our end sa Basilica. Thank you.
My task, I look like Zorro. My task is to discuss the significance of the GSK event to the quincentenary, because the GSK event is not necessarily part of the NQC list of events. It is wholly a Cebuano event, but there are so many Cebuanos all over the world. And I think this is the reason why it's important also that it's going online, because it will not just target Cebuanos in Cebu, but all others, especially those in the United States and Europe who are children of Cebuanos, who have no idea of their past or of their history. And therefore, I would be very happy if those who will buy the 80 pesos will not just be Cebuanos. So those Cebuanos here in Cebu, if you have relatives abroad, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, because this will not happen again. It's just one night. After that, we will hide all our videos. No, we probably have another presentation later, maybe a more expensive one. But for that night, you only pay 80 pesos. And we've already started receiving requests from people in Indonesia, of all places, Indonesia, no, or Thailand and all that. So this is the significance of the event, because it's very Cebuano. It talks about everything that occurred in Cebu, no, and so it's our own, and yet we can share it to the rest of the world one night only. No? So for the part of USC Museum, we will tell you what kind of food Humabon served when Humabon was eating when he first arrived, when he first met, the second meeting with Magellan, the formal exchange of notes, kumbaga, the formal embassy between Magellan and his notary and his interpreter and Humabon sitting on a mat, all that. And of course, what kind of food did Humabon offer on May 1 when he poisoned 27 of the remainder of the 27, I think, of the remainder of the crew? No? It must have been delicious because the Spaniards ate. Okay. Must have been something. There should have been humba there, because the Chinese have already been coming back and forth to Cebu. So we're going to show to you for San Carlos, the amalgam of food that have already shown foreign trading was existing already when Magellan arrived. So, and also the really Cebuano food, without the poison, of course. So if you look at all the presentations, they're very varied. No, I just wish there was someone who would present on warfare or metal implements. No, one of the museums, because you might feel that Lapu-Lapu is not it's not in the list. No, so there should have been. I would have expected there would have been someone, but Cebuanos are peace loving, so that's probably the reason why there's not one exhibiting on weapons and the kinds of weapons that were used. But who knows? In any of the presentations, they might also show, some of these implements. Kami, for example, sa USC Museum, we will show what kind of sundang was used to cut the baboy or the things like that, for food. So I hope everyone you'll help us tell everyone, not just, especially in Cebu City, I say Cebu, the whole island of Cebu, that here is an event that is online, so it's available all over. So get your relatives abroad, those who don't speak Cebuano anymore, who know that they're Cebuano, who look Cebuano, who are under attack in the United States because they're Asian Americans, to watch this so that you will understand where the kind of history your parents grew up in. Not just Yo-Yo Villame's song, but the kind of ideas we had, and the faith of your ancestors, of your parents and grandparents. Many of those in the United States, kung anak na, apo na, they've lost track of the religiosity of their grandparents or of their parents. And this is a time to connect, because there are mysteries in the Magellan Legazpi arrivals, that they both arrived in April, that the baptism happened in April, that Legazpi was a member of the Cofradia de Santo Niño, that Fray Ordaneta was a member of the Cofradia de Santo Niño, and they found the Santo Niño a day after the death of Magellan. These are mysteries that are very important that every Cebuano, every Filipino should look at. Because imagine if Magellan arrived in October, so you would not have no April 14 event for a baptism to mark 500 years. It would be way beyond. But look at the power of this month of April. And GSK is at the heart of it because it's April 16 at the middle of the month. We've cleared it out to everyone na walay laing event, not the baptism, not any other event, so that on April 16, you'll have time to look at one night only, 6 to 12, all these videos and these discussions that we will be making in our museums. Thank you.
So thank you to all of our panelists. No, there we have it. We have a little bit of a sneak preview of what we can expect for the GSK one night only. So at this point in time, we'll be entertaining questions. We have one question that was sent in ahead of time from Ms. Wenelin Sabalo of Sunstar. And she has several questions. Actually, I was told that Sir Joe Burrs will be able to answer this. This is all about the Tartanilla, no, including a little bit of the background of it. When did it arrive in Cebu? Asking what it was primarily used for. What was the social status of those that own Tartanillas? And then what were the original routes and how have they changed over time? So I was told that ikaw, Sir Joe Bar, would be able to answer. So maybe you could give us a little bit more of insight about this.
I am reminded of my Kabilin TV show of 2009 to 11. After that show, everything in Cebu would be asked sa ako. There would be emails, ano sa ni among Rizal statue gitukod? No, sa among munisipyo. I cannot answer everything. In fact, the ruta of the Tartanilla, I would imagine, would be the Spanish Quarter of Cebu. Where is the Spanish Quarter of Cebu? It's from Santiago, that border, down to the port. That's the Spanish Quarter. And you will notice that because dili siya precise ng lines pareha sa gibuhat ni Parsons nga gi-arrange niya ang streets beyond Santiago. You will find the grids are more defined, whereas in the Spanish Quarter, follow ang grid based on the layers the Indias on the coast, no? So muhiwi ang mga dalan but straight, I mean right angles gihapon. So that would have been the route of the Tartanilla. When did the Tartanilla emerge? You ask the Augustinians because they would have been the first to use traps. Trap man sa English, no? Tartanilla, it's a trap. Gamay man. No, it's not a trap nga matrap ka sa sulod, but it's called a trap in English. In British English, it's called a trap. No? Tartanilla. So it must have, there must be they would have introduced, and in Balhon you will find at the kumbento, mga ligid sa karwahe. No? So it would have started with the Augustinians who were traveling down to the coast using the boats until they eventually opened roads. You have to thank their ancestors. Their ancestors opened all the roads of the towns in the 1800s after the end of the Moro raids, no? When the Moro slave raiding already started to, and also because of the Augustinians, no? Especially Fray Julian Bermejo. Now, tanawa ko ng karosa sa luyon ninyo. Mao man na siyang Tartanilla. So, you see the basic structure of the carroza and the Tartanilla would have been the same. So you blame the Augustinians for introducing the carroza and the Tartanilla. No? It would have been introduced. Now, when would that have happened? When there would be roads. Okay, what would you use a Tartanilla for if you have no roads? So when did the roads begin to be open? Now, that's an important question that would require the records of the National Archives. Now, the records of the National Archives show that the road from Cebu to Argao was started around 1830s, ang application, 1860s. So we're talking of the opening of Cebu to foreign trade. That's the time when you have people who will pay to ride a Tartanilla to move around. Otherwise, the Tartanilla would have just been used by missionaries traveling from town to town and from rich landowners who were starting to move out of Parian and into the countryside. Rita Iosmenia, the Dutertes, the Reyneses, father, who were Rosales. That would have been, but to put a precise date when, I would say when the roads started, and that would be 1860s, when you have klaro na ang roads even in Cebu City, because there was no income coming in from foreign trading. Customs house was open, there was no bustling trade, there were now hotels, there were now residences rising. Then you're starting density of cities. That's when you begin to find public transportation. Was it introduced by the Spaniards? Yes. Caballo, tartanilla, those are Spanish words. So it's clear they're introduced by the Spaniards. We didn't have caballo before the Spaniards emerged. Arrived. That's why katong lapu-lapu ni Lito Lapid yung nagamit sa akong kabilin. When I saw it, huy, ano naman ni kabayo? Ano kabayo man is Lito Lapid kontra ni lapu-lapu. May kabayo sa time ni lapu-lapu. Nasya ko niya. Na-air naman ang kabilin. Ako rin nakibaw nga sa'yo.
Thank you so much, Sir Jobers. You said you didn't know much, but I think you did know a lot about the Tartanilla. You gave us a very thorough overview, but that's nice. It's nice to learn how interconnected to our heritage that is, and it's something that we're still able to see today in downtown Cebu. So at this point, we can also entertain questions from our members of the media that are here with us today. If there are any questions, we'd like to invite you, ma'am, to come up here with the microphone. And then you can, if you have it for a certain panelist, you can address it to them directly.
I'm an opinion columnist of the Manila Times, but I was invited by my friend Andy to come here today. So I would like to ask a question, and it could be answered by anybody. Since you really want so many people to witness this one night only event, have you considered connecting with like the Department of Education or other educational institutions or schools? Because I think it would be very great if young people, students, would be able to watch, maybe not 6 hours, but at least some of the presentations, and maybe you could even come up with some like quizzes or questions or anything that could engage young people, not necessarily during the night itself, during that event, but later on, because it's like we need young people to know about this, right? More than anybody else, not just the descendants of Cebuanos abroad, but the young people here. Maybe that would also stimulate the minds of the many young people who are being forced to stay at home and have online classes. So anybody who could maybe answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, that's also one of the intention to, because they're all in the comforts of their homes, definitely children will be able to enjoy and watch the presentations. And yes, we have also tapped our different educational institutions. In fact, there are schools already, there are teachers who have inquired how they can get their students to watch. For private schools, in fact, for certain schools, we are even offering a discounted rate, but they have to pass through their teachers, their institutions.
Thank you, Ms. Hydes, and thank you, Ma'am Marit, for your question. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm B.E. Cabalias of lifeisbeautiful.com. I have two questions for Ms. Haidee Palapar. First, from previous GSK activities, will you still be holding photo and blog entry contests? Because you're not going to have it in physical, so there will be no vlogging, right? And the second question is, for the cultural presentations, are they purely pre-recorded, or are there going to be any live cultural presentations? Thank you.
Thank you, Bea. Let me answer first the question whether there is live presentation or not. Definitely, we cannot hold the live presentations because that would require more than 10 people to congregate. We still have also to consider the technical crew who will be covering also the live event. And so, but on that night, we're really closing, the museums are closed, but they have prepared already the presentations for them just for this one night only. We didn't want that people will miss out on the GSK this year. I'm talking about the organizers and the partner museums inside. So the first question was about contest, etc. We are really looking at that because we're thinking that one of the things that we were discussing about is maybe coming up with a live photo booth, things that people can enjoy even in the comforts of their homes. So we will be releasing a news about the different activities outside of the performances that are still done online at some point before the April 16 event. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Haidee. Are there any other questions from our media members for the panel? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, good morning. Yes. I'm Levy from Cebu PH. I would just like to ask, will there be online interactive activities where the online audiences can participate in between the presentations? Thank you.
Whether they can interact directly with the presentations, I don't think so because these are recorded already, but definitely in between the presentations, before and even after also, there will be other things that we will be engaging the participants with. So like I said, we will be releasing news about that before April 16. Thank you.
Yes, so that's something to look forward to during the live event. Are there any other questions from our media members, sir?
Hello, Ramon from the Freeman. One clarification and two questions. Na-mention ni Father Reyes kaninang his presentation 20 minutes, right? Is it safe to assume that all of the participating museums 20 minutes ang ilang presentation? Is that is roughly the
Touring that the 6 p.m. to 12 midnight I covered, and we don't also want to go beyond and really stretch because that's really in the wee hours of the morning. The time.
One, I'll go to the question then. How will they be? How will the list be presented? Like, will the participants pick which museum or presenter? Kung gusto sila, let's say, I want to watch CGM's presentation first, so I watch this. Then I want to watch Sugbo Museum's next. Or is it going to be like one straight video?
Yeah, it's like a marathon of sorts. We will be releasing as well the program for that night.
Okay.
They can, well, one may opt to just choose which ones she wants to watch. Well, one can also opt to really watch from the beginning until the end.
So it's basically you will be publishing the schedule as to which eventually
most certainly before April 16.
And then last question: how many participants is the organizer expecting? I mean, you're expecting how many participants? Ballpark estimate.
Well, I don't want to give a figure because in the past when we did the face-to-face GSK, we always were able to get about 4,000 to 5,000 Cebuanos actually for one night. We're hoping that we could get more because this is online and it's not just relegated to Cebu only. And Sir Jobers mentioned it already that if we can get also international audiences, the Filipinos outside of the country to watch this one night only event, why not? That's really good if we can get them to do so.
Yeah, so since we will be online for this year's Gabii sa Kabilin, we're hoping that we can reach a larger audience. No, not just limited to Cebu like before when we had an in-person event, but hoping to expand that outside of the province as well as internationally as well. So we're really excited that our culture and heritage is now accessible to a greater audience. And we're really hoping that everyone will help in promoting it and putting it out there, to encourage people to tune in and watch. Are there any last questions from our members this morning? Okay, so if you have any questions after, you can also approach the members of the panel as well if you have any further clarifications that come up. So I think more or less that will end our press conference for today. Again, we want to emphasize that Gabii sa Kabilin is one night only. It is on an online platform this year. It is accessible and the tickets are available for purchase online through Eventbrite or GCash for 80 pesos. So we are encouraging everyone to get your tickets early to make sure that we won't, on the day of, we can just focus on enjoying the program. We're excited that the 16 museums and heritage sites have prepared really exciting presentations. And I think it's very nice that Cebuanos will be able to promote our rich culture and heritage on this online platform. And it's very accessible to everyone, even outside of Cebu. So I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us here during our press conference this morning. I'd like to thank also the members of the panel for presenting, giving us a sneak peek about what we can expect on GSK One Night Only. Thank you to everyone that has tuned in online through the GSK Facebook page. And I think that's it. So we have snacks that are being served. And if you have any other questions, again, you can approach the panel members after the event. Daghang salamat and good morning, everybody.